Where do I even start with this? I guess the beginning is as good a place as any. I thought I had it made, you know? Decent job, nice house in the burbs, married my high school sweetheart Jenna. We were coming up on our 7th wedding anniversary, together for nearly 10 years, total counting dating. And from the outside looking in, I'm sure we seemed like the perfect couple. I couldn't have been more wrong. The first sign something was up was all the late nights at the office. Jenna was a paralegal, so some overtime was expected, but this was excessive. She'd stroll in close to midnight, always with some excuse about a big case that needed extra prep. Then came the last-minute business trip that got extended 3 times. Always sounded shifty to me, but what did I know? She swore it was legit, that the senior partners needed her on site to deal with some emergency filings. I wanted to believe her. Easier than considering the alternative, right? But then my buddy Rick called. Said he spotted Jenna out with some dude at a cozy little bistro downtown. Said it didn't look like a business meeting, if you catch my drift. I brushed it off at first. Told myself Rick was seeing things, jumping to conclusions. Jenna wouldn't cheat. We had a good thing going. Until we didn't. The signs kept piling up. Her phone was glued to her hand 24/7, always angled away from my line of sight. She started dressing different, buying all this sexy lingerie for herself. Our sex life went from meh to non-existent overnight. I wasn't an idiot. Deep down, I knew exactly what was happening, but I was in denial. Kept telling myself it was stress, that we'd get through it, that she'd never betray me like that. What a joke. D-Day came on a random Thursday night. Jenna was working late again, so I decided to surprise her with takeout from her favorite Thai place. Figured we could reconnect, maybe hash some things out. When I got to her office, some frazzled intern pointed me to a conference room down the hall. Said Jenna was wrapping up a meeting and would be thrilled to see me. Thrilled. Right? I eased the door open, expecting to find her and a couple other suits poring over case files. Instead, I got a front row seat to my wife riding her ex like a prized pony at the state fair. I must have made a noise because they froze mid-hump, Jenna's ridiculous O-face morphing into one of horror as she met my eyes. Dan, I can explain, it's not what it looks like. I didn't stick around to hear her explanation, or his half-assed apology as he zipped his designer slacks, like banging my wife was some mildly regrettable faux pas. Nah, I just turned and walked out, Thai food and my dignity left in a heap on the floor. Spent the rest of the night driving aimlessly, trying to process the atomic bomb that had just detonated my life. Part of me wanted to believe it was a one-time thing, a stupid mistake she'd spend the rest of our marriage making up for. But I wasn't that naive. Not anymore. When I got home, Jenna was on the couch, mascara streaked and sniffling. She launched into some bullshit story about working late, old feelings resurfacing, didn't mean anything. She was so sorry it would never happen again. I let her spew her verbal diarrhea for a good 5 minutes before I cut her off with a single question. How long? She stared at me, doing her best impression of a deer in the headlights. What? How long have you been screwing Jake? Oh yeah, did I forget to mention? The ex-lover currently balls deep in my wife was none other than Jake Myers, her douchey college boyfriend. The same one who strung her along for years before dumping her for some sorority chick, only to circle back when he needed a side piece. A regular Prince Charming, that one. Jenna's mouth opened and closed like a glitching animatronic. Finally, she whispered, a few months. But Dan, I swear, it didn't mean, shut up. I was surprised at how calm I sounded, probably the shock. Just shut up, Jenna. I don't want to hear it. She started crying again, but I was all out of sympathy. I grabbed a pillow and a spare blanket from the hall closet, tossed them on the couch. You can sleep here tonight. We'll talk in the morning. Then I went upstairs, locked the bedroom door, and stared at the ceiling until the first tendrils of dawn crept through the window. By the time Jenna's alarm went off, my plan was already in motion. I'd called into work, claiming food poisoning. Then I'd packed a suitcase with a few days' worth of clothes and toiletries. Nothing else mattered. Jenna was in the kitchen when I came down, eyes puffy and red-rimmed. She opened her mouth to say something, but I held up a hand. I'm going to a hotel for a few days. I need space to process this. Betrayal. Her lower lip trembled. Dan, please don't go. We can work this out. I know we can. I shook my head. I don't think so, Jenna. You broke our vows. You broke my trust. That's not something you can just apologize away. Tears streamed down her face, but for once they didn't move me. What about counseling? Couples therapy? I'll do anything, Dan, please. Part of me was tempted. The part that remembered how good we used to be, how much I loved the woman she was before all this. But that woman was gone. Maybe she'd never really existed to begin with. I'll think about it, I lied. But right now I need time. Don't call me. Don't text me. Don't show up at my work. Let me come to you when I'm ready. She nodded miserably. I picked up my suitcase and walked out, the slamming door an oddly satisfying exclamation point on the whole sordid situation. I didn't go to a hotel. I went straight to the bank, then to my buddy's law office. By noon, I had a new checking account and a shark of a divorce attorney. By 5 p.m., Jenna was served with papers. My lawyer warned me that even with our prenup and no kids, the divorce would take at least 90 days to finalize in our state. I told him I didn't care how long it took, as long as it happened. The call came as I was checking into my room at the Holiday Inn. I let it go to voicemail, twice. On the third attempt, I picked up, steeling myself for the barrage of tears and recriminations. But Jenna wasn't crying. She wasn't yelling either. Her voice was pure ice when she bit out, "Divorce? Are you frickin' serious right now, Dan?" I propped my feet up on the bed, phone wedged between my ear and shoulder. Serious as a heart attack. Did you really think I'd just forgive and forget? She made a noise somewhere between a sob and a snarl. So what, one mistake and it's over? 7 years of marriage, almost 10 years together down the drain, just like that? One mistake? I laughed, the sound harsh even to my own ears. Screwing your ex for months on end isn't a mistake, Jenna. It's a choice, a series of choices actually, all of which have consequences. Divorce is one of them. This is insane, she spat. We can work through this, Dan. Don't throw away everything we have over something so stupid. Red flickered at the edges of my vision. Stupid? You want to talk stupid, Jen? Stupid is fucking your douchebag ex in your office where anyone could walk in. Stupid is thinking I wouldn't find out. Stupid is believing I'd just roll over and play the sad sack husband while you get your thrills. Silence. Then in a small voice, I made a mistake. I'm sorry. I love you. Doesn't that count for anything? For a second I wavered. Maybe this was salvageable. Maybe we could move past it, build something new from the ashes. Then I remembered her sex flush, as she bounced on Jake's lap, the way she'd screamed his name. The looks of pity from the intern, the paralegals, everyone who'd known but me, and I knew there was no going back. Love isn't enough, Jenna. Not this time. You made your bed, and now you're going to lie in it. I hope it was worth it. I hung up to the sound of her wailing my name. It'd be the last time I heard her voice for a long, long time. The next few weeks were a blur. Jenna tried everything to get me to drop the divorce. Begging, pleading, bargaining, threatening. She even showed up at my hotel, mascara running and stinking of booze, banging on my door at 3 a.m. like something out of a Lifetime movie. I ignored it all. Just referred her back to my lawyer, again and again. After 2 weeks at the hotel, I moved back to our house. Jenna had cleared out most of her stuff while I was gone, leaving only a few boxes in the garage that she'd pick up when she found a permanent place. The first thing I did was change the locks and install a security system with cameras at all entry points. Call it paranoia if you want, but given Jenna's increasingly erratic behavior, I wasn't taking chances. The legal proceedings moved forward at the pace of government, excruciatingly slow compared to my desire to be done with the whole mess. The 90-day waiting period felt like an eternity. But eventually, the divorce was finalized. Thanks to our prenup, the asset division was straightforward. Jenna got a chunk of cash as agreed upon in our prenup, and I kept the house and my retirement accounts. Clean break, or so I thought. But if I thought the divorce was the end of the drama, I was sorely mistaken. Jenna was just getting started. It began with the phone calls, all hours of the day and night, from numbers I didn't recognize, probably burners, since I'd blocked her usual digits. I let everyone go to voicemail. The messages ranged from tearful pleas to take her back, to drunken tirades about what a heartless bastard I was. Nothing I hadn't heard before. Then came the emails. Long, rambling walls of text, rehashing every fight we'd ever had, every perceived slight and shortcoming. She even brought up shit from high school, like the time I forgot our 2-week anniversary. Seriously, Jen? That's what you're gonna lean on right now? I set up a filter to auto-delete anything from her address. Engaging would only feed the crazy. But Jenna was relentless. If she couldn't get to me directly, she'd go through everyone else in my life. My mom was her first target. She showed up on her doorstep, spinning some sob story about how I'd abandoned her out of nowhere. Luckily, my mom's no fool. She called me immediately, and I gave her the unvarnished truth. Cheating? My mom's voice was pure ice. With that weaselly ex of hers? Oh honey, I'm so sorry. You did the right thing. I heard muffled voices in the background, then my mom again, tight with controlled anger. Jenna, I think it's time for you to leave, and don't come back. The next day, a fruit basket arrived at my office with a note. Hang in there, slugger. This too shall pass. Love, Mom. Have I mentioned my mom's the best? My friends were next on Jenna's hit list. She'd always been jealous of my close relationship with the guys, convinced I was one beer away from banging some imaginary side chick. Now she was using that paranoia to her advantage, trying to turn them against me. She started with my best friend Chris, cornering him at the gym with crocodile tears and a story about how I was threatening her, stealing her money, forcing her into a divorce she didn't want. Thank God Chris had my back. He cut her off mid-manipulation, held up a hand. Save it, Jenna. I know everything. Dan told me the day he caught you riding Jake like a broken carnival ride. I would have paid good money to see her face when he said that. The smear campaign continued with my other buddies, my coworkers, even my dentist. She posted vague woe is me updates on Facebook, making me out to be some heartless monster who kicked her to the curb over one little mistake. The flying monkeys came out of the woodwork, eager to pat her on the head and prop up her victim narrative. Though I deactivated my own Facebook account to avoid the drama, friends kept sending me screenshots of her most outrageous posts. After a while, I asked them to stop. I didn't need the constant reminders of her toxicity. Through it all, I kept my head down and my mouth shut. As much as I wanted to blast the truth from the rooftops, I knew engaging would only add fuel to Jenna's attention-seeking fire. The only way to win was not to play, but my silence only made her more desperate. The late-night calls escalated to banging on my door at 2 a.m., wailing about how sorry she was and how much she missed me. This time, my security cameras captured it all. I called the cops, watched stone-faced from my window as they escorted her off the property, still crying and hiccuping about what a huge mistake she'd made. The next morning, I filed for a restraining order. Given the clear evidence of harassment from my security footage and the police report from the previous night, the judge granted a temporary order. We'd have a hearing in 2 weeks for the permanent one. Of course, that only sent Jenna into an even bigger tailspin. In her mind, it was proof that I still cared, that there was still hope for us. If you really wanted me gone, you wouldn't bother with an RO, she insisted to my lawyer, eyes fever-bright with delusion. You'd just ignore me. This means he's still invested. My lawyer, a grizzled older guy who'd seen it all, just shook his head. Mrs. Mitchell, my client is invested in his peace of mind and safety. Nothing more. I suggest you respect the order or face legal consequences. I wasn't worried. With the divorce settlement, Jenna was sitting on a decent chunk of change. No way she'd risk getting arrested and losing access to her meal ticket. But I'd underestimated the depths of her crazy. The day the restraining order was finalized, I came home to find my house trashed. The security cam footage showed Jenna letting herself in with her old key, the one she'd sworn she'd lost. Then, in full view of the camera, she proceeded to smash every picture of us, rip up my clothes, and take a baseball bat to my prized flat screen. All while screaming about how I'd regret leaving her, that she'd make me pay, that I was nothing without her. The police had her in cuffs within the hour. She was still ranting as they loaded her into the squad car, mascara streaked and hair wild. I pressed charges: destruction of property, breaking and entering, violation of the restraining order. Her lawyer urged her to plead guilty and throw herself on the mercy of the court. She got 30 days in county and a stern warning to stay the F away from me. I thought that would be the end of it. Surely even Jenna wouldn't be crazy enough to keep this up after a month in lockup. but I'd forgotten who I was dealing with. 2 days after her release, I got a call from my bank. Someone had tried to drain my accounts, using my social and mother's maiden name to get past security. 3 guesses who. I froze my credit, put alerts on all my financials, and braced for impact. If Jenna was willing to commit identity theft, there was no telling how low she'd sink. I found out a week later when a process server showed up at my door. "Daniel Mitchell?" At my nod, he held out a thick sheaf of papers. "You've been served. Have a nice day." I flipped through the legalese, my stomach sinking with every page. Jenna was filing for a modification of our divorce decree, claiming that she was entitled to additional support due to changed circumstances. Specifically, a pregnancy she claimed happened right before our divorce was finalized. She was naming me as the father and requesting immediate temporary support during her delicate condition. The court date was set for a month out. Her lawyer had petitioned for emergency support payments in the meantime, citing Jenna's pregnancy and inability to work. I called my attorney in a blind panic. This couldn't be happening. The divorce was final, the paperwork signed and sealed. She couldn't just undo it with a bullshit lawsuit and a belly full of bad decisions. Could she? "Calm down, Dan." My lawyer's voice was steady over the line. "This is a pretty standard post-divorce modification attempt when there's a pregnancy involved. But given the timeline and her documented affair, we'll request a paternity test before any support decisions are made." So what do? We go to court. We present the facts. We let the judge see exactly what kind of person your ex-wife is, and we put an end to this circus once and for all. And that's exactly what we did. The hearing was a joke. Jenna showed up in a skin-tight dress that showcased her barely there bump, dabbing at dry eyes and sniffling theatrically as her lawyer spun a tale of woe about her difficult pregnancy and how she needed additional support despite the divorce settlement. My lawyer shut that shit down with cold, hard facts. The documented affair with Jake, her harassment, property damage, and identity theft attempts, her time in jail for violating the restraining order. Then he formally requested a paternity test, citing the affair and timeline as reasonable doubt of my paternity. The judge listened, face impassive, as Jenna tried to paint herself as the innocent victim of my heartless scheming, as her lawyer blustered about my moral obligation to support my child. Then he turned to me, eyebrow cocked. "Anything to add, Mr. Mitchell?" I stood, buttoned my jacket, looked Jenna dead in the eye as I said, "Your Honor, my ex-wife cheated, lied, gaslit me for months. When I had the audacity to divorce her, she stalked and harassed me, violated a restraining order, stole my identity, and vandalized my home." I took a breath, let it out slow. I didn't abandon her or abuse her. I simply refused to let her abuse me anymore. If that child is mine, I'll step up and pay my fair share. But I won't let her manipulate me with a baby that's most likely her affair partner's. I'm asking the court to see through her act and deny any modification to our divorce settlement pending the results of a paternity test. The judge steepled his fingers, considered Jenna and I in turn. Then he shuffled his papers, cleared his throat. Motion for temporary support is denied. Given the documented affair and timeline, a paternity test is required before any modification of the divorce decree will be considered. Test to be completed within 30 days. Until then, the plaintiff is on her own. I suggest you get a job, Mrs. Mitchell. This case is continued pending test results. Jenna wailed, called the judge a string of names I won't repeat here. Her lawyer hustled her out, shooting me a venomous look as security approached. I didn't smile, didn't gloat, just shook my lawyer's hand and walked out of the courthouse into the crisp autumn sunlight. The paternity test came back a month later. To the surprise of absolutely no one with a functioning brain cell, Jake was the father. Last I heard, he'd reluctantly stepped up and was supporting Jenna and the baby, though he was far from thrilled about the situation. According to mutual friends, he'd been blindsided by the pregnancy, having assumed she was on birth control. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes, I guess. As for me, I'm thriving. Once all the legal matters were completely resolved, I sold the house, too many bad memories, and moved to a different city about an hour away. Close enough to maintain my business and friendships, far enough to start fresh. I bought a condo downtown, started dating a bit, nothing serious, just enjoying my life without the constant drama and chaos Hurricane Jenna brought to everything. Sometimes I look back on our marriage and wonder how I didn't see it sooner. The red flags, the narcissism, the entitlement. I was so caught up in being the good husband that I let her steamroll my self-respect. Never again. It's been 2 years, and I can honestly say that leaving Jenna was the best thing I ever did for myself. I lost a lying cheater, but I gained something far more valuable: peace of mind and a backbone. These days, when friends mention seeing her unhinged social media posts, I still keep my own accounts deactivated. I don't feel anger or regret. I feel pity. Pity for a woman so twisted by her own selfishness that she'd burn her entire life down just to keep me in her orbit a little longer. But mostly, I feel grateful. Grateful that I saw through her bullshit, stood my ground, and kicked her to the curb like the trash she is. So that's my story, Reddit. TLDR. Caught my wife cheating with her ex. Divorced her. She went batshit crazy, stalked and harassed me, tried to baby trap me. I stood my ground, let the legal system handle it. Now I'm living my best life and she's stuck with the consequences of her shitty choices. The end.